Can you imagine a world where passive resistance could overthrow an empire? In the grand tapestry of history, such a world did exist. A world where the strength of nonviolence echoed louder than the clamor of swords and guns. This world was India during her struggle for independence. Among the many threads of this struggle, one stands out for its unique approach, the non-cooperation movement, led by Mahatma Gandhi. The cornerstone of this movement was Gandhi's philosophy of Satyagraha, a Sanskrit term meaning holding on to truth. It was a doctrine of passive resistance, a tool of the oppressed against the oppressors. It asked for the courage to stand firm in the face of injustice, but without resorting to violence. And it was this philosophy that inspired millions of Indians to join hands in a peaceful revolt against British rule. Let's delve into the chronicles of the non-cooperation movement, a testament to Gandhi's philosophy. The year was 1920. A nation was on the brink of an unprecedented revolt. In the early 20th century, India was simmering with discontent. The British Raj had been ruling with an iron hand, and the Indian populace was growing increasingly restless under the yoke of colonial oppression. However, it was a series of incidents that acted as the catalyst for the non-cooperation movement. The first of these was the Rowlatt Act of 1919. This act gave the British colonial authorities sweeping powers to quell dissent. It allowed them to arrest and imprison anyone suspected of sedition without a trial. This draconian law was met with widespread disdain and resentment. Then came the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, a brutal act of violence that shocked the nation. On the 13th of April 1919, thousands of unarmed Indians had gathered in Jallianwala Bagh, Amritsar. They were protesting the Rowlatt Act peacefully, but the British responded with ruthless force. Hundreds were killed and thousands injured. This event sent shockwaves throughout the country, fueling a growing sense of outrage and a desire for justice. Around the same time, the Khilafat movement was gaining momentum. This movement was a protest by Indian Muslims against the dismantling of the Caliphate in Turkey by the British. This movement found a common cause with the broader Indian freedom struggle, leading to a unique Hindu-Muslim unity that further strengthened the call for independence. Amidst these turbulent times, a new leader emerged. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, already known for his successful passive resistance campaigns in South Africa, called upon the people of India to adopt the same approach. Gandhi's call for passive resistance, or Satyagraha, was a revolutionary concept. It was a call to resist the British rule not with violence, but with non-cooperation and civil disobedience. Thus, the stage was set for a unique revolt, one that would not raise a single weapon. The non-cooperation movement was not just a revolt, it was a revolution of ideologies. In the year 1920, this movement, led by Mahatma Gandhi, began to unfurl its wings across the Indian subcontinent. The first notable step in this movement was the nationwide boycott of British goods. Gandhi, a master strategist, knew the economic vulnerability of the British Empire in India. He encouraged Indians to shun foreign goods and promote Swadeshi, or local products. This wasn't just a boycott, it was a way of asserting Indian self-sufficiency and a bid to cripple the British economy. Simultaneously, the Indian populace, under Gandhi's guidance, began to surrender their British-awarded titles. This act was a direct challenge to the British authority and a refusal to acknowledge their rule. Renowned personalities like Rabindranath Tagore gave up his knighthood in protest of the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, thereby adding momentum to the movement. As the movement gained traction, mass protests became a common sight. These weren't violent uprisings, but peaceful demonstrations, a testament to Gandhi's principle of Satyagraha, the force of truth. People from all walks of life participated in these protests. The urban middle class, peasants, workers, students, and even women, who were mostly confined to their homes until then, stepped out and joined the movement, making it a truly inclusive struggle. From the zamindars of Bengal to the tribal communities of central India, everyone was touched by the spirit of non-cooperation. For the first time in the history of Indian resistance, the struggle against colonial rule was not fragmented but unified. It was not confined to the elite but resonated with the masses. But the movement was not just about protests and boycotts. It was also about constructive work. Gandhi emphasized the importance of self-reliance. He advocated for the revival of cottage industries, particularly hand-spun khadi, and the promotion of Hindu-Muslim unity. The spinning wheel, or charkha, became a symbol of this movement, representing self-sufficiency and the dignity of labor. The non-cooperation movement was a turning point in India's struggle for freedom. It was a shift from the moderate demands of the early nationalists to a more assertive stance. For the first time, the goal was not just to seek reforms, but to attain Purna Swaraj, or complete independence. The movement was not just a challenge to British rule, it was a challenge to the existing social order. It questioned the caste system, untouchability, and the position of women in society. It was a call for a new India, an India that was not only free from British rule, but also from the shackles of social injustice. However, the movement was not without its challenges and criticisms. But that, dear listeners, is a story for another time. For now, let's bask in the glory of a movement that changed the course of Indian history. A single incident in February 1922 led to the abrupt suspension of the movement. It was an event that occurred in the small town of Chauri Chaura in the northern Indian state of Uttar Pradesh. What started as a peaceful demonstration escalated into a violent clash, leading to the unfortunate death of 22 policemen. This incident was in stark contrast to the non-violent principles that Gandhi and the non-cooperation movement championed. Upon hearing the news, Gandhi was deeply distressed. He felt that the movement had strayed from its core values of peace and non-violence. In response, he made a decision that would go on to become one of the most controversial moments of his political career. He called off the non-cooperation movement, a decision that was met with a wave of shock and disbelief among his followers. The abrupt end of the movement created a rift within the Indian National Congress, the leading political organization fighting for India's independence. Many of Gandhi's contemporaries profoundly disagreed with his decision. They argued that the non-cooperation movement had been gaining momentum, and suspending it would slow down the progress towards independence. The aftermath was a period of introspection for Gandhi. He continued to emphasize the importance of non-violence in the fight for freedom. However, his decision to suspend the movement was met with criticism, not just from his political contemporaries, but also from the public. Critics argued that his decision to halt the movement was premature and that it had the potential to further the cause of India's independence. Despite these criticisms, Gandhi remained steadfast in his commitment to non-violence. He believed that any victory achieved through violence would be a hollow one. His decision to suspend the movement, though controversial, underscored his unwavering commitment to the principles of non-violence. Despite its abrupt end, the non-cooperation movement left an indelible mark on India's freedom struggle. It underscored the power of peaceful resistance in the face of oppression and set the stage for future movements that would eventually lead to India's independence. Nearly a century later, the non-cooperation movement continues to inspire millions around the world. It's a timeless testament to the power of peaceful resistance, a concept spearheaded by Mahatma Gandhi, a man who believed in the strength of silent, non-violent protest. The non-cooperation movement was a revolution in its own right, a revolution of the mind and spirit against oppression. It was an awakening of the masses, a narrative of unity and strength that transcended barriers of caste, religion, and class. This movement was not just a pivotal moment in India's struggle for independence, but it also set a precedent for peaceful protest worldwide. The impact of the non-cooperation movement was not confined within the borders of India. It rippled across the globe, resonating with those who believed in the power of peace and non-violence. It influenced many notable personalities and movements, from Martin Luther King Jr.'s civil rights movement in the United States to Nelson Mandela's fight against apartheid in South Africa. The principles of non-violence and passive resistance remain relevant even today, as we witness peaceful protests against injustice and inequality in various parts of the world. The legacy of the non-cooperation movement is deeply woven into the fabric of India's history. It's a story of courage, resilience, and the indomitable spirit of a nation that chose to resist oppression, not with weapons, but with unwavering conviction and unity. The movement's ideals of harmony, equality, and justice continue to shape India's pluralistic society and democratic values. Furthermore, the non-cooperation movement forever immortalized Gandhi's philosophies of Satyagraha and Ahimsa, truth and non-violence respectively. These philosophies, rooted in respect for all life and a firm belief in the power of truth, have since become guiding principles for countless individuals and movements. The non-cooperation movement, a testament to Gandhi's philosophy of non-violence, remains a beacon of inspiration for peaceful protests worldwide. As we look back on this chapter of history, we are reminded of the profound impact that peaceful resistance can have in shaping a nation's destiny and the world at large.